Well, FPL 2025-26 is finally here, and I'm finally happy with my Game Week 1 team. Hello, welcome to FPL Mate. This season, I will be playing FPL like my career depends on it, because it really does. And as such, I've built a beautiful team for the new season. And guys, if you want to build your own beautiful team for the new season, make sure you do check out Fantasy Football Hub, the best tool set for fantasy football nerds. If you are serious about your FPL, you need to be using their My Team tool, Opta Stats, fixture tickers, planners, and many, many more great things on their app and website. And you can now get 50% off your subscription, plus your money back if you do not win your mini league. Yes, that is their promise. And guys, make sure you do check it out right now using the link in the description. All of the top managers are already Hub members, so make sure you don't get left behind. Plus, guys, you can get your team rated on their website completely for free as well. So at the very least, try that. Okay, before we share the team, let's add some vital context, because we need to talk about my chip strategy, which is going to be very important when you look at the players that I'm selecting. So my plan is to free hit in Game Week 6, and this will be bringing in Man City players for their fixture against Burnley, and maybe to a lesser extent, Bournemouth versus Leeds. Nottingham Forest also have a great fixture that week, so I'll probably be looking to triple up there on my free hit. For the wild card, I want to save it to as late as possible. Now, Game Week 13 looks like a pretty good window for using that first wild card, with Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal having really nice fixture swings. Their fixtures get really nice from around that point onwards, maybe Game Week 14 in the case of Arsenal. So I think that's a good period of time to target to use the wild card. For my triple captain, I'm looking at various fixtures here, because remember guys, we get 2 of each chip this season. We have to use one of them in the first half. So looking at the best fixtures in the first half of the season, we're looking at Salah versus Burnley in Game Week 4, maybe Sunderland at home in Game Week 14. And if I have Haaland in Game Week 15, I could choose him for Sunderland at home. But I would say Game Week 14 is probably my most likely game week for my first triple captain chip. And as for my bench boost, I have no immediate plans to bench boost. I want to wait until we can unearth more value picks, just to see if we can get some really nice cheap players on the bench that maybe we don't know about. Looking for that next Morgan Rogers, looking for that, next Cole Palmer. And those are going to be the kind of players I'd like to bench boost. And then, of course, I'll be looking to play my wild card after my bench boost as well. So hopefully looking to bench boost before Game Week 12. Game Week 5 is one idea I looked at, but I'm not locked in here. I do want to see how it plays out a little bit first. As for my squad planning, I'm not keen on really any of the 6 million defenders. I think the 5.5 defenders with strong attacking threat or defensive contribution potential can actually match them. I also want to aim to not make any transfers until Game Week 4. This includes ensuring that I have long-term defensive rotations covered to avoid those defense transfers. Ideas for transfers are fine, but no specific planned transfers. I want to keep flexible just in case anything crazy happens. And every year in football, something crazy happens. Injury, suspensions, players you never thought you would want to buy, and suddenly you do. These are things to consider, and a good reason to save those transfers. And I also want to cover all price points, maybe with the exception of 6 million defenders, so it's easy to make direct like-for-like transfers if things don't work out. If I am going to pick any risky players, I also want to ensure I have identified specific escape route players that I like, that I could buy if things don't work out. So it's all about having a backup plan in place for all of the different scenarios and trying to play with a bit of safety, but also trying to include some spice. And there is some spice in this team, guys. So let's kick it off with the goalkeeper, Sanchez. He is the cheapest goalkeeper from the top 4 teams last season. Chelsea actually conceded the 3rd fewest goals in the Premier League last season. He is a reliable kind of long-term goalkeeper, really, with great fixtures all the way up to Game Week 13, where I am planning my wild card anyway. I don't really see too much value in Chelsea defenders. They are kind of poor for defensive contributions. They may have significant rotation risk, other than maybe Marc Cucurella. And Sanchez just seems like the easiest way into the Chelsea defense in general, whilst their fixtures are so good. I am a little bit worried about the Colwill injury, but I think generally with Sanchez, the benefits outweigh the negatives, I suppose. Next up, in defense, Pedro Porro. Now, let's start off with an exciting one in defense, I think. 2 goals and 6 assists in 28 games last season, so an attacking return every, one in every 3 or 4 games, I guess. Now, with Maddison injured, Pedro Porro will be taking free kicks and sharing corners with Kudus as well. And a lot of Spurs fans are actually expecting, some improvement in Porro specifically under Thomas Frank. Now, Frank's Spurs team have looked defensively more solid in pre-season, switching from, sometimes a back four, sometimes a back five. That's going to depend on the difficulty of the opponent, and that's going to push Pedro Porro into a wing-back position in those games in which Spurs do play a back five. So classic Thomas Frank, set pieces, back fives, back fours. This is what you're getting with his kind of teams. And defensive contributions are a bit of a mystery so far, but Porro actually did hit a DEFCON bonus in 2 games during pre-season against Arsenal and Bayern Munich. So there is going to be some scope for defensive contributions, those 2 points that you get, the new points that we're getting this season in FPL, which is quite exciting. But speaking of defensive contributions, my next defender is a little more boring. Is this the way to Amarillo in my team? Yes, it is. This is the boring one. So good fixtures, plays for a solid defense with a weak attack. He's actually a bonus points machine as well, Murillo. But most importantly, he is that defensive contribution points monster. Only Tarkowski can put up better DEFCON rates than Murillo, judging by last season's data. So we're expecting Murillo to get those defensive contributions in over 50% of his games. And strangely, he gets even more in the easier fixtures. I slightly prefer him to Milenkovic, who is stronger for attacking threat, but weaker for DEFCON and bonus. Murillo is the sensible and reliable pick to balance out the excitement of Pedro Porro. But the excitement doesn't end there, because we have got Malik Diouf, who scored 7 goals and 3 assists in 23 starts in the Czech League last season. And he's been starting every game at left back for West Ham during the preseason. And looking at those games, it seems like those goals and assists will continue. It looks like he'll be the more attacking fullback than Wan-Bissaka on the other side, with Diouf providing width on the left and Bowen providing width on the right. I can already smell, really, the regrets of Wan-Bissaka's owners watching them both play in Game Week 1. And it smells oddly fruity, actually. Cross spammers will be better this season, I think, as changes to the rules will award assist points for passes regardless of an intended target. So when those balls are being crossed into the box, whoever ends up with the ball and scores with it will grant the crosser, the passer, the assist there, which is a difference from previous seasons. So this is also going to benefit Pedro Porro, by the way, guys. The opening fixture is against Sunderland, who are lacking a bit in attack. So this could be huge, really. After that, he's going to rotate in and out of my starting 11 with my bench defenders, depending on the fixtures. You will notice that some of my defenders in the starting 11 have poor fixtures in certain game weeks. Pedro Porro in Game Week 2, Murillo Game Week 4, Wan-Bissaka in Game Week 2 there as well. But these game weeks are completely covered by my bench defenders. I'm going to show you them later on in the video, guys. But before we move on to the midfield, if you wouldn't mind dropping a like on the video, that would be massively appreciated. Give you good karma for Game Week 1 as well. So yeah, why not? No harm done, and it really helps out the channel too. So thank you so much, guys. And of course, do feel free to subscribe if you want to follow along with my season this year. And we'll go into the midfield with Salah. And I won't waste your time with this one. It's a pretty obvious one. It's Salah. No, a weak Community Shield performance hasn't really changed my mind. I want a proven player that I can captain with confidence every week, and that is Salah. Palmer, another fairly obvious one here. Some brilliant performances in the Club World Cup, a slight change in role, and great link-up play with the new striker, João Pedro. Everything is clicking at Chelsea. Add the great fixtures to that, and knowing Palmer has that 20-pointer in his locker, I'll be terrified to not own Palmer. I really wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I didn't have Palmer in my team. And I value my sleep, so I will pick him. So let's move on to Bruno Fernandes. And with all of the new signings, we're expecting a much better Manchester United this season. Finally, Bruno will have someone to pass to. I think he'll most likely play in a deeper role in most games, but more as a free 8 who can pop up, when needed. That said, I do think he'll play advanced in the opening game against Arsenal. So I think he'll play in one of the attacking midfield roles in Game Week 1. He'll take all the set pieces, including the penalties. He'll now get defensive contribution points in around a third of his games, judging by last season's data. Maybe even more if he's playing deeper more frequently. So despite the weak fixtures, he's a nice long-term hold with access to FPL points from so many different places, different directions. So he's super reliable. Again, maybe a bit sensible, which means I can go a little bit crazier for the next one. And crazy I shall go, because hear me out, Ismaila Sarr. Okay, yes, he is a troll and only scores when you don't have him in your team. And yes, he has bad fixtures in the opening three, but these things are actually connected. So, Ismail Assar is the ultimate counter-attack player. He thrives against high lines with his speed. His sole aim in a game of football is to make the linesmen pull their hamstrings. We saw it against Liverpool where he scored and assisted. We saw it countless times against high-line possession teams last season. He's a troll, but that's because he actually really benefits the most against some teams we would consider strong defences. Now, Chelsea and Aston Villa play with possession. Sarr actually scored 4 goals and 2 assists in 3 games against Aston Villa last season in the League and FA Cup. So I don't really consider these fixtures difficult for him specifically because I think it's a good tactical matchup there. After that, we have some great fixtures, Sunderland, West Ham. So it's actually the Forest game in Game Week 2 I'd be most worried about with Sarr. One concern is Eze. If it looks like Eze is going to leave, then I might have to have another look at Sarr before the deadline. I'd love to get some Crystal Palace fans' opinions on Sarr if Eze were to leave. And as for the Conference League games coming up, no concern there. Sarr is a fitness monster and he may be given a rest in these games anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back the amazing underlying stats that Sarr offers to us. No midfielder at 6.5 million, even at 7 million or less, puts up the better underlying numbers than Sarr. And although he didn't quite hit his potential last season, he actually came kind of close, scored plenty of goals, got plenty of assists, actually, per minute, per game played, actually did slightly better than Eze last season, which is really saying something. We'll move on to the final midfielder, and this is probably the player I'm most likely to change before deadline, and that is Reinders. 10 goals and 4 assists in the Italian Serie A last season. That's not bad at all, and he featured in the top percentiles of pretty much every shooting and passing metric last season. He had an amazing season, basically, but for Man City, there are some concerns he could play in a deeper role, but for just 5.5 million, it's like, is it just worth the risk? I could go boring and sensible, go for Elliot Anderson at Nottingham Forest, and that was the plan until I found a potential escape route for Reinders if this pick goes wrong. So the escape route idea is to move to Arias of Wolves in Game Week 5, when Arias has great fixtures, starting with a game at home to Leeds. Reinders will have Arsenal in Game Week 5 for reference there. But regardless of where I move, this is not a long-term pick. It can't be. Rodri and Kovacic, they're going to return eventually. Champions League games will come in the calendar and start congesting things. All of this will happen kind of from Game Week 5. And at that point, nobody is safe from Pep Roulette. So in many ways, Reinders is kind of a high risk, high reward, shorter term play whilst we wait for the next Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers to emerge and we can pivot to them instead. Let's move up front. Watkins, Mr. Reliable, 15 goals in each of his last 3 seasons or more. 8 or more assists in each of his last 3 seasons as well. Opening fixtures against Newcastle, Brentford, Crystal Palace and Everton. They look pretty average, but I know I've mentioned this before, but he got 10 FPL returns in the 8 Premier League games he played against these 4 teams last season. So that's really, really nice. Fixtures from Game Week 5, really nice. A bit of a set and forget pick. Aston Villa fans think he's probably the first choice penalty taker, and sometimes he will miss those penalties just to keep you humble. So Ollie Watkins, good for your FPL teams, but also kind of good for your ego as well. Let's go to our final striker here, and it's going to be Joao Pedro. And this is maybe a player I am not 100% convinced by, and I definitely acknowledge that this could be a huge risk. This could be a huge trap. But what I am kind of afraid of is how many people have Joao Pedro in their teams already. It is dangerous to go without Joao Pedro. If he does really well, you could be cooked if you don't have him in your team. And ultimately, while Joao Pedro has some minutes risk, we expect him to probably start the first couple of games for Chelsea. If he does really well there, that's going to be brilliant. And ultimately, his recent form in friendlies in the Club World Cup has been very, very good, actually. So, do we just have to, not overcomplicate it, stop worrying about minutes and stuff like that, and just think, hey, we're allowed a couple of risky picks in our team. Don't go overboard, but 1 or 2 is fine. Maybe one of them should be Joao Pedro, because at least if the risk doesn't pay off, then, 60% of the user base, 2/3 of the user base of FPL are going to be failing with you. So it's like, there's no real huge losses here. So that's kind of my thinking of Joao Pedro. And that's why it is in my team. Plus, Mateta is a really nice escape route in Game Week 4. Mateta plays Sunderland in Game Week 4. I prefer Mateta in the easier fixtures, actually. And he has really good fixtures from that kind of area, excluding Game Week 6, where Crystal Palace play against Liverpool. But I'll be free hitting that week anyway. So no problem there. So that's the starting 11. Let's have a look at the bench here. So we've got Dubravka. Everyone has him on their bench. You guys know why by now. I hope when he is match fit, he has the best minutes potential of any 4 million goalkeeper. A no-brainer if you don't want to spend too much money on the bench. Maybe useful to play very occasionally in your starting 11 as well. We'll see how things turn out there. Esteve actually rotates really well with my other defenders, so I can play him in his super easy fixtures like Sunderland at home in Game Week 2 and Leeds at home in Game Week 8. So that's going to cover a little bit of my starting 11 defenders, I suppose, there. And, he should be pretty good for defensive contribution points as well, given that we're expecting Burnley to do a lot of defending this season. Richards is next, and I guess he is proof that American imports in British football are more than just Wrexham and Ted Lasso, at least in recent years. Oh, wait, I guess there's Anthony Robinson. But Richards, he has a little bit of attacking threat. He maybe gets, 1 goal in 10, scored a couple of goals over the summer in the Gold Cup, actually, for Team US. He ranks 5th in the table of defenders for defensive actions per 90 last year. So really, really high for such a cheap player. And him and Anderson at Fulham are my 2 favourite 4.5 million kind of defenders for defensive contributions for DEFCON. But Richards just suits my defensive rotation to cover those tough fixtures from Pedro Porro and Murillo just a little bit more. I will show you this genius rotation strategy in just one moment. But yeah, again, Richards, his worst fixture is actually in Liverpool, Game Week 6. Again, we're going to be free hitting there, so that's not going to be too much of a problem for me. And our final player on the bench is Mark Gue, also known as Mark Google how to pronounce his name. I did. It's Gue. I believe he has the best minutes potential of any 4.5 million forward or midfielder. So again, it just makes sense if you do want to kind of not spend too much money on your bench, and I don't want to spend too much money on my bench, and he's kind of perfect. So there is a small concern about whether he might get a price drop if many people sell him, if he doesn't get many points in the opening game weeks. I know that sounds illogical to waste a transfer on a bench forward, but most FPL managers, they're not weirdo nerds like us who watch YouTube videos and do our research. They just kind of make transfers a lot of the time on vibes, quite impulsive. So, that can affect price changes because these are the majority and these are the guys who will have the biggest influence on those price changes. So just be aware if you are going for Mark Gue, he can very feasibly drop to 4.4 million after a couple of game weeks. It is possible. I'm not saying it will happen, but it is possible. So you can maybe go for Krupi Jr. at Bournemouth there instead. But honestly, that kind of feels like overthinking at this point, doesn't it now, guys? And I'm trying to limit my overthinking a little bit this season. That's why we're going for players like Joao Pedro and Reinders. Yes, they feel risky to me, but I think we just got to play what's in front of us for now and make sure we have those contingency plans, those backup plans, just in case things don't go quite to plan. But we need to throw a captain's armband on a player. And yeah, we're not messing about this game week, guys. Mo Salah for our game week 1 captain, and our vice captain is going to go on Cole Palmer. But in game week 2, I am open to switching the captain's armband to Cole Palmer. So it'll be one of Salah or Palmer for game week 2. But what I really like is game week 3. Real nice captain potential for Bruno Fernandes at home against Burnley in game week 3. Again, we'll have to see how the first couple of game weeks play out, but it's definitely something to be aware of, and it's nice to have that game week covered. Game week 4 looks really good for me. We've got kind of Salah against Burnley there. So, potential triple captain if I can't wait for game week 14. But that's kind of my thinking in terms of captaincy for these opening game weeks. Ultimately, when you've got a player like Salah or even a player like Haaland in your FPL team, you pretty much have a captain for every single game week of the season whilst they are in your team, don't you? Well, maybe apart from AFCON for Salah, but that is an issue we need to talk about in future videos, I'm sure. Okay, so let's talk a little bit of strategy in FPL this season. And first of all, on the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool, my team is rated an incredible 99%. I have rarely seen a team with a rating this high. And of course, this tool is using all kinds of different algorithms to try and figure out just how good your FPL team is. So make sure at the very least, guys, you are checking out your free team rating using the link in the description. Can you beat 99%? Is there anyone out there at 100% or more? But to get a good confidence rating, I would be shooting for at least 90%. So good idea to just double check, get a sanity check. If it's 90% or more, you're probably good to go. Might be a few risks there, but you're probably good to go. If it's under that, then maybe you might need to rethink stuff. And the great thing about this tool is it does make suggested transfers for you guys as well. So if you click to remove a player, so for example, if I click to remove maybe one of my weaker players who I'm a bit concerned about, Reinders, and it's going to give me AI suggestions. So it's going to say, okay, you could consider Wilson here, Dewsbury Hall, or Tavernier, kind of on this right-hand side here, if you guys can see that. So really, really handy for getting some alternative options if you are not convinced by any of your players. Really, really useful tool for that. I mean, great suggestions as well. I love all of those ones. So yeah, I would happily have any of those players pretty much. But yeah, let's go week by week here, guys. So game week 1 you've already seen. Game week 2, so what we do is we bring in Richards and Esteve onto the pitch. Pedro Porro, Diouf would go onto the bench for their tough fixtures. And we could even play Dubravka against Sunderland. I'm undecided whether I'll play Sanchez or Dubravka for game week 1. I guess we'll have to see what the fitness situation is like, what Burnley look like in game week 1 as well. Going into game week 3, we bring Pedro Porro back in, and it's most likely going to be Diouf here as well against Nottingham Forest, because I think Forest maybe some concerns about their attack. We'll go to game week 4, and it's Richards, Pedro Porro, and Diouf here. Murillo has his away game against Arsenal, which is a bit worrying, so wouldn't want to play him there really. And as for game week 5, things do look a little bit better for many of my defenders. So we've got Murillo, Diouf, and Richards on right now, but you know, good chance I actually play Pedro Porro instead of one of Diouf or Richards. It depends which way I kind of want to target it, but by game week 5, we're going to be looking at how teams are setting up. We're going to have a lot more information, and hopefully by this point, guys, you can see that my defenders are fine. This does continue on to future game weeks. There's always, you know, 3 defenders with good fixtures for me to play in each given game weeks, which means I can focus my transfers on those attacking areas if things go wrong anyway there. If Saar needs a transfer, Reinders, Joao Pedro, I can make those transfers very easily because the defense is already covered as long as there's no injuries or, you know, massive changes of information or anything like that, which we of course have to adapt to. In game week 6, I am lacking Man City other than Reinders, who could be useless by this point anyway. So yeah, that's not ideal there. So we need more Man City against Burnley, and also we only have Murillo against Sunderland. So by that point, hopefully we'll have a better idea of who is going to be the regular striker for, or regular attackers really, for Forest. Double up on the Forest defense, get an attacker in there as well, triple up on Man City, and suddenly this team looks much, much better indeed. So yeah, game week 6 free hit looks like the play for me right now, I think, guys, to be honest, and I think it could really work because it means I don't need to focus too much of my attention on Forest, on Man City, because after game week 6, their fixtures aren't particularly special around that time. So it's not like I would want to buy these players for the long term, but I would love to have them for game week 6 in isolation there. So that is what my team is looking like, guys. Make sure you do check out Fantasy Football Hub. Full subscription right now, guys, is going at 50% off right now, plus your money back if you don't win your mini league. It's a great cracking deal that you can get only before the start of the season. So make sure you use the link in the description to claim that. But again, at the very least, get your free team rating, get the sanity check, because if you don't get it, it turns out your team was like a 70% team rating and your team flops in game week 1. You'll wish you checked. You wish you just checked it out to make sure it's looking good, looking hot, looking fresh. But there we go, guys. One more new video will be coming before deadline tomorrow, and we'll be streaming all day on Friday as well. So make sure you join me for that. But if you want more FPL Mate, I made a playlist here of my very best videos that I have uploaded. No filler stuff, no fluff. Just the best videos, just the best information that you guys are going to absolutely need ahead of game week 1. But until next video, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates.